month, we are embarking on the rebirth of spring as we explore the infinite possibilities that exist for us when we align with and live from spiritual truth. So our monthly affirmation is the following. Knowing I am connected to infinite spirit, I soar into infinite possibilities. My mind and heart are open to the greatest yet to be. I love that. The greatest yet to be. As I embody an ever greater understanding of spiritual truth. That's the bigger picture. And to put a real wonderful flavor on today's message, let's bring up Reverend Joy Hare.
So who is ready for spring? Anyone have spring fever? You all do? Some of you do? So I wore this just because it has spring flowers all over it, and I'm getting in the wonderful groove, not groovy, but the wonderful groove, groovy too, of spring. And so this whole month is dedicated to that divine idea to open our mind and open our heart to ever yet greater possibilities. So today's message is part 2. Who remembers the 3 divine senses that I shared last week? Who remembers them? No one. Good thing I have a little review. In addition to our 6 senses, we have sight. Most of us have sight, smell, taste, touch. We can hear, right? In addition, all of us, every one of us, we have additional divine faculties or senses. We have them. Now, some of us may not use them. So as I go through them today, just kind of check in with yourself and see if you are really embodying and fully and powerfully using these additional senses that you have. They're already within you. But first I want to touch a tiny bit on our symbol. Who remembers our symbol? We don't see it too much anymore. And so I wanted to share with you just a tiny little piece of that and what it means, because it's very powerful. So in the circle, you all know that the circle is the beginning that has no end. So the circle that's used in weddings and other ceremonies, etc., the native medicine wheel. So it's used very many times. How about Stonehenge? So there's many places on our planet where we embody the idea of the beginning, the circle that has no end. In this particular symbol, the very top part is the infinite spirit of life. It is the divine. Some call it the seed, the soil, and the plant. The seed, the soil, and the plant. So this part is the infinite divine beingness of the universe. The middle part is the law, which always says yes, that's the soil. Like the soil, when you plant a seed this spring, does the soil argue with you and say, no, I don't feel like tomatoes this year? No. And so, liken unto that, the law, it'd be interesting, can you imagine you're there trying to plant the tomato and the soil says, no, I'm not in the mood. Doesn't want to do tomatoes this year. No, the soil receives the impress of our thought and acts upon it. So the law, we call that the law of God. It's all part of God. So that's the middle part of the symbol. And the last part is the manifestation or the result or the plant. So it's the seed, the soil, and the plant. The divine essence that is everywhere present. The seeds that we plant in our mind, which grow in the fertile soil. And finally, the manifestation. So those are the 3 parts that I wanted to touch in just the very beginning part. And of course, there's the V. Does anyone know what the V stands for in our beautiful symbol, the V? It's not victory, but it could be. That stands for the creative process. That we are all creative beings on the eternal journey of that. So I think that's very powerful. We changed our symbol. You'll see behind me here, to see that's the new one that we have, but I always want to just kind of, at least, maybe once a year, touch upon our symbol, because I think it's very important. So, last week, I began a 6 a journey of 6 things, and I only shared 3 last week. Today is the completion of that. So the first one that I shared last week, it's very powerful. We all have the ability to do this, and that is our imagination. Who remembers the definition of imagination? Imago is where it comes from. Yes, Sheila?
Imagination.
Mm-hmm. Nation means to be born again. So it's our ability to envision or to have in our consciousness the divine, our heart's desire, what it is that you would like, and using your imagination is very powerful. The second, who remembers the second one? It was your will.
Yes.
And that is our ability to give our mind, it's not forcing something to happen, it's the ability to give our mind a command and then to follow through. That is the will. The last one is intuition, which is we had in our reading, and I'm going to share a story with you and use that story as a way to segue into the final 3 divine senses. And I think they will all surprise you. These last 3, you have them, but do you use them? So, first we'll talk about intuition. Who is somebody here in Canada? Because I just moved back here after being gone for about 50 years. I know you didn't think I was that old. So who is someone really famous in Canada that you would like to meet? And I know you're going to all say the Premier.
Justin Trudeau.
Justin Trudeau? Okay. Anyone else? How about anybody, like we have Deepak Chopra, Oprah, in the States. Is there someone here like that? The Dalai Lama, that's a good example. Okay, let's say that you wanted to hang out or meet or have him as your private personal teacher. Wouldn't that be awesome? To have the Dalai Lama as your teacher. Well, there was a woman, her name was Genevieve Bahard, and in her time, there was someone very famous that some of you have heard of, and some of you have not heard of. His name was Thomas Troward. And she wanted so much to meet him and to have him as her personal teacher. And she was following her guidance. So she contacted him and they corresponded for quite some time. And she asked him, will you please be my personal teacher like you would ask the Dalai Lama? And he said, no. Thomas Troward said, I don't take students. I don't teach personal students. I don't. He said no. So they kept corresponding and she kept asking. So then, because she kept doing that, he decided that he was going to give her a test. And he kind of thought, well, she probably won't pass the test. So I'm going to share with you the test. He said, if you can tell me what this means, I will take you as my student. So here's what he said. Here's the quote. And this is from the chapter of Revelation. So he gave her this. He said, and the city lieth foursquare, and the length is as large as the breadth. And he measured the city with a reed. 12,000 furlongs. The length and the breadth and the height are equal. What does that mean spiritually? And she didn't know. She prayed, she meditated, she asked. She could not figure out what it meant. Could not figure it out. So she traveled around the world. She sent, they didn't have computers in those days, so she sent letters to priests, lawyers, doctors, nuns, clergymen. She tried everything, and she knew intuitively that wasn't the right answer. And she wanted so much with all of her being to study with Thomas Troward and the Dalai Lama. So finally, she went to an old used bookstore, and they had a sign in the window that said astrologer. And she goes, well, maybe I'll ask the astrologer. So she asked the astrologer, she said, can I get a reading from the astrologer? The bookstore owner said, shocked, he said, no, this is France's premier astrologer. He's a professor. He doesn't do readings. And she said, well, I'd like to meet him anyway. So she got an appointment, went to meet him. She asked him, and he said, no, I don't do readings. But something was telling her to wait a minute before she left. He actually said, there's the door. So she's meeting with him. His cat, meow, jumped on her lap and started purring and made friends with her, like purring and, you know how cats do, meeting, doing this thing. And this astrologer was so shocked that he wanted to know about Genevieve. What is this? So he said, okay, I'll give you a reading. And she said, really, I want to know about this quote. And this is the answer he gave her, the astrologer. He said, that quote says, the city signifies the truth, and the truth is non-invertible. Every side from which you approach truth is exactly the same. She sent it off to Troward. And he said, your answer is correct. He said, I'm going to start to teach, he's a professor, I'm going to teach a class on the Great Pyramid, and you are invited, and after that class, you will be my personal student. So she was following her intuition. No matter how many times they said no, how many of us stick to our gun, so to speak, stick to our truth, follow our intuition, even if it seems kind of odd. So we have that power of intuition. I love Dr. Holmes' words. He said it is a divine revelation directly from Spirit. When your intuition pops in, listen to that. So that was our last one. We had imagination, will, and intuition. So can anyone even imagine what the next divine quality or faculty that you have in you right now? What could it be? And this one's a really big one. Anyone want to guess? Okay. It's your perception. Your perception, your power of perception, your power to decide what something means to you. There's nothing, and this is from Hamlet. Who remembers Hamlet? It's a play. He said, there is nothing either bad or good, but thinking makes it so. And you may be thinking, now that's just not true, that there's a lot of bad things that happen in the world. Like what? There's wars are bad, you can say murder is bad, car wrecks are bad, there's lots of things that are bad, and I'm not going to pretend that those things may affect us and upset us. However, what I know to be true is there is a presence and there is a power that is beyond that is beyond our perception of good and evil or bad. We don't believe evil, but good and bad, whatever we judge, that is our perception of it. And every one of us has that ability to look at any situation in a new way, to perceive the blessings that are there. And I brought along an example for you. How many of you know what this is? This is a skinny Buddha. This is a skinny Buddha. And I had skinny Buddha. Skinny Buddha was on my desk where I used to live. And one of my board members came in, walked in the door and accidentally bumped the skinny Buddha. The Buddha fell on the floor and he literally, the head broke off. And I'm sitting there in my office looking at a beheaded Buddha. I was really scared. What does this mean? What is your perception? I bet if I asked every one of you, you would have a different perception. What does that mean? Is it a sign? Is it a sign from God? Keep your head on your shoulders. I mean, it could be many, many things. So I very lovingly picked up the 2 pieces of Buddha and gave it to this board member, and I said, I know that you will find a way to put the head back on. And the next week when it came in, it was all in one piece again. But it was such a shock, to me. And so it could have been, so think about your own life, things that have happened in your life. Maybe it was a car accident, maybe it was a divorce, maybe it was something you lost your pet, or you lost your job, or something happened, and you perceived it as not a good thing. But what if the benevolence of the universe